Welcome to the Four Goobers podcast. I am joined with.
Do I say my name?
Yep.
David Couch. David Gibbs Couch
Hello,
here.
David.
What's up, everybody?
Hello, David.
Yeah. Hey, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Oh, Miss Charlene. Ugh.
That's an Saturday Night Live reference for you guys out there.
It's a reference. Okay. So our another guest on my screen is right here or here.
I'm Luke. Hey, I'm Luke.
He's Luke. So today one of our goobers isn't here due to unforeseen circumstances in the mainframe. Other words, he has work, so he's not here. So today we only have three of us, which is more than last time. So you should be saying it's improvement because it's more than last time.
I sure think it's an improvement, if you ask me.
And
But what do I know, right? I'm just a goober.
You're just a simple.
Sorry.
You're just a simple simpleton.
That I wouldn't go that far.
I'm sorry. So today, the topic for this podcast is an album review because we wanted to wait to do the whole theme park thing until we have everyone. So today we have an album review, and that album is. Drum roll.
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Everybody.
No, I said it first. I wanted to say it. I told you before I wanted to say it. But...
We have some thoughts about it, some more than others. I'm looking at you, David Couch. You wrote a whole.
I got pages and pages of this stuff, man.
And so let's just get right into it.
Let's not do accents. That's offensive. All right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's not do that.
So I think it would be appropriate for Luke to kind of start us off with this one because he was the one who kind of introduced this to us, and I listened to like a little bit of Dark Side like a couple years ago, but never all the way through, and I never really appreciated it. So I want to thank Luke for letting us have this opportunity to listen to it and discuss it and think about it. So take it away, buddy.
Basically, I really like this album.
Wait, can I say something real quick?
No, shut
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. Just real quick. I just want to say I didn't know about Pink Floyd before this.
I don't know.
That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
Well, I knew about Pink Floyd, but I didn't know about this album specifically.
Well, have you been living under a boulder, Mr. Patrick Starr?
No,
like, come on.
Actually, a roof.
Anyways, as I was saying, I really enjoy this album as it's incredibly ahead of its time. I think it draws a lot of inspiration from several genres and kind of melds them together into one like hyper genre, and kind of like influence sort of the classic rock era of the 80s, and then what we saw turn into like the grunge era of the 90s, and then into the 2000s, all this stuff. Like if this album dropped today, I mean, it would not shock anybody. Like I think it was incredibly ahead of its time, and I love its production value and everything. I think in terms of its story and its themes, it's very diversely included, it's not linear at all. So like the way it tells a story kind of goes all over the place, and you just kind of pick up what you pick up along the way, which I think is really cool. You don't have to stress about listening to specific parts. You just, when you hear it, it's whatever. And then I don't know, it touches on themes like death, acceptance, just life in general. I really like it. It's really awesome, and that's pretty much the introduction I have. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you make about it not being linear, but it still tells a story. And I do think, and I listened to this album several times in preparation for this. The first time I listened to it, I was just kind of putting it on in the car, before and after school. But I feel like I really didn't get the full experience until I listened to it all the way through. But that being said, the times that I did listen to it, like on and off throughout the day, I could still pick up on different themes and stuff, really well, as if I were listening to it all the way through. I really think you need to listen to it all the way through to get the full experience, of course. but the themes, like you said, it's not necessarily linear, but the themes that you can pick up by listening to it in whatever order, um, you know, things repeat themselves and you see patterns, not just like sonically or musically, but thematic patterns throughout the entire thing. I think that's just really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that, David. I just wanted to add that I also feel like you need to listen to the album all the way through. It's a much better album if you listen to it all the way
In
through.
the context of the other songs, yeah.
Right,
Because
right,
even though
Because they
there's like
start and end abruptly. If you don't, it just
right.
seems.
Th-
it, even though it's like 44 minutes, I feel like it's way better than just like songs in isolation. Well, there's some songs I
yeah.
feel like in isolation that are still pretty good, like Money.
Hmm.
Pretty
I'd
good.
say
Yeah.
time works somewhat, but
Time works.
Time works by itself.
It just has
I
like a
I will
really long
say
intro.
yeah,
Time
I
works
will
by itself.
say yeah, definitely objectively the best way to listen to this is all the way through because all the songs go into each other, obviously they took very big inspiration from the B-side of the Beatles' Abbey Road, which I believe was the first time that any band or group kind of pioneered that concept of having an album where one song seamlessly goes into another. But I think Pink Floyd took it a step further in this case and made it to where you know I think there are different sections of the album. I think instead of thinking of it as in terms of an album of songs, it's like three or four sections of songs that all go together that you can kind of group thematically or sonically that kind of sound similar. And yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it because really, like, if you're not paying attention to the track list as you're going, or if you're not looking at your phone to see when the song switches, you might not know when it does. I listened to it all the way through maybe three times, and one of the times I was trying to pay very close attention to when one song ended and one started. But then there was another time where I just like sit back and did not pay attention to the track list. I didn't pay attention to when it switched and just enjoyed it as one big piece of media. And as I enjoyed it that way, time flew. Like, no pun intended, but like time went by really fast. And the one complaint that I would have about this album is that it's too short almost, especially if you listen to it
yes,
that way. It just leaves you wanting more and it feels like it's resolved so quickly. I think the pacing is great and that's probably why it feels so short. But like I couldn't imagine something like this being a double album. Like that would be insane. I think that would feel like a full story is being told here. But yeah, it just leaves you wanting more by the very end of it. And I think it's incredible the different themes and stuff that it explores. um, I think it's interesting how at first it's very kind of like introspective and kind of psychedelic, very mellow and like sweeping guitars and the slide guitars and everything, kind of dominating the sonic landscape there. I guess from Speak to Me all the way into Great Gig in the Sky, it kind of has that same kind of feeling to where you could listen to that all the way through and it feels like a very cohesive piece of music. But then
yeah,
I think the breaking point there is when it gets to Money, and that's when you have this tonal shift and this sonic shift in the kind of sound that you're hearing, which like really that shift makes you appreciate the prowess of this band who can borrow from so many different styles and still transition pretty seamlessly from Great Gig in the Sky to Money. And despite all the musical differences, I think you get thematic differences, like drastic shifts in the thematic tone, uh as like Great Gig in the Sky especially. It's very introspective and talks about humanity and talks about the very spiritual side of it. But then Money kind of like flips a coin and it's like the other side of our world that's full of like materialism
yeah,
and how that like that kind of in a way the first time I heard that I was like really enjoying the very philosophical aspects of those first few songs, and then when it went into Money, I found myself a little bit annoyed. Like, don't get me wrong, Money is a great song, but when I first listened to it, I'm like, well, that's weird how they
Yeah.
totally shifted into something else. But it didn't take me long to like to think about, okay, this is clearly satire, and that's why they threw in Money, because it just contrasts those ideas so differently, and how, from the POV of the narrator, so to speak, of Money, or the speaker in Money, that's clearly a person who doesn't see the point of view that was presented in the previous songs. And I think we kind of go into Money to get that break from all of that, but then after that we
Yeah.
go into Us and Them, and it kind of reintroduces the same kind of thing.
I
Well, the
feel
But
way
like
I
anyway.
think about it is like the first section of the songs, right, is like deep, introspective, like talks about death and you can't escape time. Like a lot of it focuses on time. How I mean, obviously there's a song called Time, but even with Breathe and On the Run, they talk about on the run is running from the clock, whatever.
Mhm.
But I feel like once you hit Money, it's like what you were saying, what you use to distract yourself from those sort of introspective thoughts. And then I feel like Us and Them is sort of grouped in with Money, where it's
Yes,
like
I agree.
sort of talking about the elite and like how I don't know how they view things. Like sort of the way the song ends is it says, I've quoted this a lot of times, but it's all for the price of tea and a slice. The old man died, right? So it's like
Mhm.
it's talking about the Revolutionary War, but it's basically implying that just because these people at the top want something so stupid, just innocent people are dying, and it's because we're focused on money when we should be focused on time. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And then
And
we shift. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's an interesting comparison that you make between Money and time. I feel like there's like there are two things that I guess in the context of this album that you could say are valuable, and I guess there's of course more, but you think about the old adage, time is money, and I think the striking thing about the thematic elements of this is that I think at the beginning, speak to me, you kind of get an amalgamation at the very beginning of all the sounds that you're going to hear later. I noticed that you hear the ticking of the clocks at the beginning of Money, and you also hear, I'm sorry, not at the beginning of Money, but at the beginning of Time, and you also hear like the cash register and coin noises that you hear at the beginning of Money, and then you hear like the man laughing, which kind of reappears throughout the entire thing. But I thought thinking about these two things that, in humanity we often find valuable, which is time and money, and the contrast between those, and how like time is arguably more valuable than money because it taps into that spiritual part of us, and like it is a universal part of all life, whereas money, like you said, is just the distraction, the thing that we use to get what we want, but ultimately doesn't fulfill us because it makes us selfish. And I think
Well, yeah, they say it in the song. Hold on, let me look up the lyrics. It's sort of like the chorus, like money, it's a gas.
yeah,
Grab that, whatever,
yeah,
make a stash.
yeah. It says wait, are you talking the part that's like money to gas, grab that cash with both hands and make a stash. New car,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
caviar, 4 star,
Mhm.
daydream. Think I'll buy me a football team. I thought one
Hmm.
of the lyrics from that song that I thought was pretty interesting was one that was like money, so they say, is the root of all evil today. But if you ask for a rise, it's no surprise that they're giving none away. Away,
Mhm.
away, away, away.
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty interesting lyric. I think
yeah, I
Wasn't that sort of like a background thing where like somebody's talking? I think it
no,
is.
that no, I think
yeah, I think it's
that
like them talking and then
the
there's a song.
away I know is the very end of the song, because
Yeah.
I think that is parts where they're singing. That's not a
Yeah,
talking bit,
yeah, there's people
but
singing there.
like I was trying to like really dive into the lyrics of Money and like pinpoint the exact like points of satire and stuff, and think about what it's really trying to say. And I found it really interesting that I feel like Money is kind of strange in that it doesn't conclude itself. And I think that speaks to the point that they're trying to make here, is that like money as an object, like it's not fulfilling, because it in the end it doesn't get you anywhere. That song kind of leaves us on the edge, like repeating the word away, 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 and doesn't really resolve into any solution to to the money that they're talking about. And then of course it goes into us and them, which I thought you made a really good point about us and them, kind of almost bridging the gap between money, which is very materialistic and worldly, and bridging that with the more spiritual side that we've already seen. Because I think that phrase us and them, it does feel like they're talking about some kind of elite or something. Like there's us, whether the us is the elite or whether the us is the more lowly people, and the them, it could be vice versa. But I think that's a really cool way that they bridge the gap between that again right after money,
I
because
think
it's kind of questioning you know what money is as a status symbol, and like what it gets us in society and what that makes us compared to people who have more or less than us. I thought that was really cool.
I think us and them also could be talking about war as well, because
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
there's like a lyric that said forward he cried from the rear, and the front rank died, and the general sat, and the lines on the map moved from
Mm-hmm.
side to side, which kind of illustrates that like the general I think kind of symbolizes like people who are like more should I say this? People like
They're
who
just
are
sitting and watching,
people
you
like
know,
Mm-hmm.
who are
like the
like
elite.
yeah people who are like more uh, in power, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and they view people like you and me who are like or like well, I'm not trying to like like people who are like not like in a position of power as kind of
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
expendable,
Right.
and it's and at the end of the day, I think it's trying to like say that fighting between I think in the end that us and the enemy that we're facing we are all the same because we're all like not in a position of power. We all are like want to go home and see our families. We all have
Right.
like desires and aspirations and stuff like that. And there's like really not any point to fight if in the end we're us and them we're the same thing.
I know.
And
Yeah, and I think.
really it's people who are in power who want to take advantage of us.
Mhm. And I think the line in that song that just sums it all up, that like that stuck with me. Like the other thing that I love about the structure of us and them is how like at the beginning it's very like fragmented. Like there's us and you wait a bit, and them and you wait a
Mm-hmm.
bit, and
Yeah.
then I'm pretty sure it might be the first line of the song actually, or the first phrase of the song that says it kind of sums it up for you right then and there. Us and them, but in the end we're just ordinary men. I thought that was
Yeah.
such a good line because it just sums up what Chris was talking about there, that it doesn't matter who we are different or who we're different from, or who has power and who doesn't, and like who's being taken advantage of. No matter if we're at the top or the bottom, we're all just people and we're going to die someday. We're all mortal. We all have to think about time. We all have to worry about money, some more so than others, but in the end we're just ordinary men. I think like that kind of ties together the two worlds that I was talking about earlier, of the material and the spiritual, and like in the end we all kind of share the same experiences. Some are more or less fortunate than others, but in the end we're all
Mm-hmm.
the same.
And the way like it transitions into any color you like, and then goes into the last section, which I think is about
Hmm.
mental health, with the way
Yeah,
like
for real.
I mean brain damage. Obviously, it's called brain damage, but it sort of talks about like I know that it's about their band member who went crazy and they
Hmm.
like he wasn't in the band, but it's also just about like how we perceive mental health, like what defines somebody as a lunatic, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. And then the last song, Eclipse. I don't think it has that many lyrics. Hold on, let me.
Do you guys
Uh,
agree that
yeah, it's just
do you guys
what
I
agree
think.
that brain damage and eclipse could have like been into the
the
same
same song.
song?
Yes.
But it's
Yeah,
like
I
the
totally
Eclipse
agree.
thing. The Eclipse, it like takes what was talked about in brain damage. This was like the whole thing where it's like, what is insanity? What is a lunatic? And it kind of like melds it into like all that you touch, all that you see, all that you taste, all that you feel, like all that. Like it doesn't matter because the sun's gonna be eclipsed by the moon.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
and I think a note that I made here about that, I love the resolution of that, and it feels so powerful and uplifting in a way. And I think the one of the most constant themes in this is that no matter what circumstance is going on, there are a few certain things in life there are a few certain things in life and in the end of life that are the same for everyone. All that you touch and all you destroy, like all of that stuff, it feels so uplifting and comforting that like
Mm-hmm.
that those are just truths that are gonna happen in life. And I think like the thing that I love about it, and I don't know if you guys interpreted it this way either, and I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but it's saying all that like those are the constant truths of life, and it ends with the sun is eclipsed by the moon. I think is that the very last line?
Yeah, and then it like does a little talking thing where it's like
Yeah.
something.
So
Yeah.
the talking thing is what I wanted to kind of mention. So and I want to kind of talk about this earlier because we hear the same man's voice earlier in Great Gig in the Sky, and I want to talk about that a little later. But to stick on topic for now, I think the great part about the end is that Eclipse, and of course the title of the album, Dark Side of the Moon. I think that's a really cool image. Like that's something so cool, and this whole idea of an eclipse and like a revolution of the moon. Everything just keeps going around. But I love how at the end the old man who spoke earlier in Great Gig in the Sky comes back in and says there is no dark side of the moon really. It's all
Mm-hmm.
dark. And so like that in a way to me was like, well, how much do we really know? Like we want to feel comfort in this idea of the eclipse and that things will constantly just go around and keep happening and that we'll see each other on the dark side of the moon eventually, and at the end you're just left with this, well, there's really no dark side of the moon at all. So like you're like, well, like you're kind of leave more with more questions than answers. And I just love that feeling, that kind of just leaves it ambiguous and leaves it really up to interpretation to what you think about it. But I think also it just kind of like reiterates the point that all these things will go on, and in the end it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's any dark side of the moon or not. I just kind of love that kind of reiterates that in like a really
Yeah.
meta way.
And I think that's a great interpretation, but I sort of like I don't know, I think you're more right, but I sort of thought of it in like the way that like maybe he's just not like the guy at the end. I feel like he's like a symbol of lost hope. You know what I'm saying? Because when the sun is eclipsed by the moon, the dark side of the moon does not exist because it's being lit up by the sun. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
that's the part. Yeah, I don't know, but that's what I was thinking. Like he lost hope that there was a dark side of the moon, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon, and I
And
don't
I
know.
I think another way to interpret it, and I want to kind of go into talking about Great Gig in the Sky because I think that's such a standout track for me on this album. I remember before I like revisited it uh back a couple years ago when I first tried to listen to this album. I think Great Gig in the Sky was probably the one that I probably stopped on. But like I remember even back then, like that stuck with me, and I remembered that title of the song. I think one of my favorite parts about that song, other than just like the like just a immaculate like musical quality of it, is is the man's voice that speaks. And I think like the chord progression, it feels so powerful and so emotional. It wasn't my first time listening through because I was just kind of listening to it passively in the car, but when I sat down and just like kind of closed my eyes and like listened to it on my stereo speakers and didn't pay attention to the track list, listening to those like soft piano chords as it kind of picks up and hearing the the man say that I'm not afraid of dying. Why should I be? That just overwhelmed me with emotion. I started tearing up and I was like, oh my gosh. Like I almost broke down listening to that part because I've never really had any experiences with being afraid of dying, but just hearing those words, like it was like an emotional comfort that I felt,
Yeah,
and hearing this guy, and like the what the whole delivery and everything, and like the effects that they have on his voice when he says it, it just like amplifies the thing. And I'm like, surely this guy, he sounds so wise, like the way he said it, and the way and like the things that he said, it sounds so wise. And like I'm like, who is this guy? Like he has to be some kind of like philosopher or psychologist that I don't know about. And so I tried to research it, and I'm like, well, who is this guy? And like I wasn't getting answers immediately. And you might know more than me, but I was researching it, and I found that this guy, I think he was like on the janitorial staff at Abbey Road
Yeah.
Studios where they recorded this, and they were just going around asking people there what they thought about death and if they're afraid of dying. And just the fact that this was just a guy, just like a lowly guy with, with a job as a janitor in the studio, had such wise and powerful words about this. I think like just the I think that again goes back into the contrast of money, where you've got this guy who, if you look into the background, he's just a janitor, right? And yet he has so much to say. He has so much respect for life and death, and he has so many wise words to say. And then you go into money, and money's like, it's from the perspective of money's the most important thing in the world, and that you should be selfish with it. Yet we just heard these amazing words from this guy who clearly didn't have a super high paying job and still had so much to say, and like makes you feel so much emotion. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of make a note on
Yeah.
that.
It kind of like makes you think that it kind of reinforces the point that money isn't everything, because if someone who has no money is able to speak so wisely and have such a positive mindset about death, then maybe having money isn't all what it's cracked out to be.
Yeah.
I
And
totally agree.
I think it's like it's really important to like remove any preconceptions you have, because like as you were saying, like it's like the song you stopped at. I think this is a really tough album to listen to for the first time. Like even though it's like incredible, I think this album really hits on your second time listening to it, just
Mhm.
because it's really weird to adjust to the fact there's songs without any lyrics. You just have to listen to the instrument, and it's like, but those are the most powerful ones. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So it's like it's hard to think about that and adjust to that. But I remember the first time I listened to it fully, I mean, I liked it, but it was like, it was just like, it was boring to me because I didn't get it, you know? And then I
Yeah.
started listening to it again and again because I got addicted to these like anthems of like, I don't even know, it's just deep. And then it just hit me one day. I was like, dang, this is amazing. Like, this is a perfect album. I'm like, I wouldn't have any doubt in my mind if like this was the most perfect album ever. Like I
Mhm.
cannot see a flaw in it, you know.
Yeah, I
But
think it really depends on who you ask and like what you're looking for in an album. And I think as a piece of art, this is just incredible. And like not only as art, but I think like I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's so powerful. Like this whole album, all the way through, the themes that it touches and everything, it's so powerful. It starts to feel less like a piece of music, which is in essence, that's what that's what most of us think of when we think of an album. Is it's just a piece of music, like a cohesive piece of music. But this is like so much more than an album, which is why it makes it hard for me to compare it to other albums I've listened to, because it seems like none of the other stuff I've listened to really had the one goal of making a cohesive, like it's so many ideas wrapped into one big one. And I think like if that was the goal with this album, then they knocked it out of the park, because like it's just such a it's so thought provoking, and each time I listened to it, I heard different things, like literally and metaphorically. I heard different things and realized different elements about it, and learned new things. I learned new things about myself and about how I saw things like death and life and money and time and all this. It's just it's a great experience, and it really makes you think. I think people who like to think deep and who like I think like people who enjoy like questioning things, this is a great album for that, because it really just makes you think. You can't really listen to it passively, or else you'll get bored, like you said. I think that's probably why I stopped at Great Gig in the Sky. It I don't know what actually happened, but a year or two when I was first listening to this, I knew I stopped at after Great Gig in the Sky, probably because it went right into money and totally changed, and like I kind of felt like it wasn't worth it because it kind of clashed a little bit. But after listening to it a few times, you start to appreciate stuff like that, and everything has a purpose here.
and there's
And
definitely, it's just like, I feel like what's most incredibly like powerful thing about the album is that like while the instrumentals are so uplifting and like it's like a whole symphony of sounds going at once, even with like it was sort of a newer sound with the electric guitar that was more pioneered by the Beatles and pop music. But the fact that they could sync that with the choir or like the ladies singing or whatever, and like all these sounds, like the production value is incredible, and they can lift that up while also like talking in sort of like a depressing reality. It's
Mhm.
such a contrasting thing. Like it's just like an explosion in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just crazy. I don't know how they even thought to do this. Like it's
Yeah.
insane to me.
I just want to bring up something that I thought was kind of like an influence that I've seen in other pieces of music. Uh, was it Great Gig in the Sky where the janitor was talking about death?
Mhm.
So like I've noticed that in especially on Donda, Luke, do you remember that song? That's I think it's called dang it, what is it called?
The one where she's talking and she's like,
Well, no, it's like don't let the light.
"A
I don't
lifestyle
know what
drive."
it's called, but it's one of the songs.
Believe what I say.
Believe what I say. Um, there's like a part in that song where like
At the end.
yeah, where like that guy is talking, and he's like he
Mhm.
like starts talking like in a monologue type of way, just like the
Yeah.
janitor was in that song. I don't know if that was intentional, but I feel like it was kind of like a cool connection that I made from this album and another album that
That's what, like, whenever you listen, like, I listen to Kendrick Lamar, his album Damn recently, and it's like incredible, like the influences I pick up, like just the way that the symphony of like vocals that he has in his song Pride just sounding like something that would just come directly off a Pink Floyd record. And it's like I can't believe that's an album made in 1973 is carrying its influence into like hip hop in the 2010s. That's like insane to me. And
Mhm.
I just it's incredible, you know.
like I feel like it like Pink Floyd that album influenced other albums, and then other albums influenced other albums, and then eventually it went down the grapevine all the way to like something that because like Kendrick Lamar probably like heard something that sounded like Pink
Yeah.
Floyd, and he probably unconsciously, subconsciously added it to his music, not
But it's
meaning
sort of
to.
like the same, like, cause his song was called Pride, and it's like the same thing, money, time, like, it's like it was, like, tackling the same issue, and I thought that was I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
I don't maybe it was like what you said,
it
but,
kind of illustrates that like we're still having the same problems today of like
Mhm.
yeah.
consumerism and greed back then and now. We're still facing like the same issues, probably even more exacerbated now.
That's what, like, whenever I listen to that Kendrick record, it's like, I feel like if this was if this Pink Floyd record was, like, analyzed and then placed into the time period where, the Kendrick record was written. And, like, I don't know how I'm, like, gonna say this, it's, like, it sounds really weird, but, like, if you moved the album to today, that's what the record would be, because it's just, like, it's sorta like I don't know, it shows the influences and, like, I don't know if you listen to that album, it's, like it's the same thing where it, like, has all the subjects and the titles of the songs, like lust, pride, God, fear, all that, like, it's the same exact sort of thing, but I feel like it's just sort of transposed into, like, our reality today, and the fact that that can happen because some guys made this album in 1973 is, like, incredible, and it's insane that this all sorta like, started with the Beatles, like what you were saying, David, like, what they did inspired so much incredible, like, creativity among artists, it's, like, insane to, like, track down, you know?
Yeah, and I think for me, of course, like the Beatles is my favorite band of all time. I think like if I had to pick my favorite musical group or artist of all time, it's got to be the Beatles, just because I have such an appreciation for like what they pioneered, and not only that, but I think their music is genuinely great and it holds up today, especially their later albums. But I think I saw so many parallels between this and Abbey Road, especially the B side, because that obviously is what inspired them to do this entire thing where each song goes into the next. And
The
I
synchronization,
right,
yeah.
and I saw so many parallels between the subject matter too, because the B side part of Abbey Road, where it starts the entire thing,
What
where
songs that start with, by the way?
it
I was
starts
listening
it starts with "You Never Give Me Your Money," which I think, like,
Yeah, yeah,
which I already saw, like, holy crap, like, that it starts with a song called "You Never Give Me Your Money," and then there's this song here called "Money,"
money, yeah.
within the same kinda, like, within the same kinda, like, style of, putting all these songs together. I also saw tons of parallels between, like, the themes that are discussed in like like life and death and happiness and like what fulfillment is, especially towards the end of Dark Side of the Moon with Brain Damage and Eclipse. And I saw so many parallels between that and the last few songs of Abbey Road, which consist of, I guess I would say, from Golden Slumbers and into what's next? It goes from Golden Slumbers and then Carry That Weight and then The End. I saw tons of parallels between that and Brain Damage and Eclipse
I
because
think. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but dude,
that's right.
Carry That Weight as such a similar sort of like
Yes.
construction to it that what's it called? Time does, or no, not time. Shoot, I guess it would be
I
Eclipse where
I
it's
made
like
I made a
uplifting.
note about it. Hold on. I made a note about Carry That Weight. It okay, so Carry That Weight to me, just personally, because I have such an emotional connection to that song.
Hmm.
Carry That Weight is one of the most uplifting song, like that combined with Golden Slumbers is one of the most uplifting songs I've ever heard. Like if I'm ever feeling sad, I just turn on that song and it immediately makes me feel like I can like accomplish whatever I want to do. But I thought I got the same kind of feelings from that and Eclipse,
Eclipse, yes, because
especially.
it's like this. It's sort of sad lyricism, but like the way that the melody is uplifting, it's like the same sort of constructive thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I see that as well. But I think a more striking comparison to make is that between Eclipse and The End by the Beatles, because I felt like the whole idea of Eclipse saying like all that you hate, all that you eat, all who you meet. I don't know what it says exactly, but like all those things, like saying all these things that are constant in life, and no matter what you do, the sun is eclipsed by the moon.
Hmm.
I think like that same kind of idea I think they pulled from The End by the Beatles, because in that song, one of my favorite lyrics of all time, the last lyrics of that song on the last Beatles album ever recorded is, and in the end, the love you make or the love you take is equal to the love you make. And I feel like that's such a profound idea that really lines up with what Pink Floyd was doing here. Is that it doesn't matter who you've hurt, it doesn't matter how you've hurt in life. In the end, all that you've taken is equal to all that you've made in the end of your life. And I think
So nothing like it's sort of saying that nothing matters in like the most uplifting way possible.
yeah,
You know?
because there's two perspectives to that, and I feel like the Beatles I've always seen as a very, especially on the side of Paul McCartney, which contributed to the most of the B side of Abbey Road. It's very uplifting, and it makes you happy. It makes you feel like you can accomplish things. But I feel like Pink Floyd kind of took those same ideas and gave it a little bit of a pessimistic thought, while still like I feel like they introduce it as an idea of pessimism, but then like turn it around and give you a reason to care and still uplift you in the same way. I feel like I feel like uh I don't know. I just feel like it's the same idea, but speaking from two different ways. And I think, like you said, it's the most uplifting way to say that nothing matters, because you could either say nothing matters and be completely nihilistic about that and not care about anyone, not love anything or anyone, or you can say nothing matters and be okay with the hardships in your life, and be okay with the things you have to get through, because in the end you're going to get fulfillment out of life.
Yeah.
It's two different ways of looking at it. But I think Dark Side of the Moon especially kind of taps into like a mixture of the two a little bit, but kind of portrays the same message that you'll find fulfillment as long as you search for it.
And I feel like as Christians, like it's especially empowering for us because sometimes we do worry about like these worldly things that they talk about in Dark Side, like money, whatever, like time, how we worry about dying, you know. But I mean, obviously, it's not an entirely Christian album. It does mention God a couple times, just like
Mhm.
in phrasing, but like it just helps to know, like even if it's a mostly secular album, with the context of Christianity, it's so much more powerful in my opinion because
Mhm.
it's like all those things that don't matter so much less when you think about like heaven and death in the context of God, you know?
Right. I totally agree. I think this album, I feel like the thing that spoke to me about it, because I was keeping in mind my faith and my religion the entire time, because I mean, how can I not when I'm thinking about the very spiritual side of everything that this is talking about? But I think just a testament to this album is that it takes all these ideas from all different kinds of philosophies. I think like definitely in Eclipse we see a lot of like Stoic philosophy. If you're familiar with that, like I think the Greek philosopher Diogenes kind of tapped into this idea of stoicism, that the things that happen that are out of your control you shouldn't worry about because you can't control them. Which
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds like such a simple idea, and this Eclipse really reiterates that, and it makes you see parallels when you think about your own faith and you think about all the philosophical ideas that this is obviously borrowing from. It's all the same because it's just such simple ideas that are true to everyone in life if you want to accept it. And I
Yeah.
think that's just so cool. I love it. I love it when I can connect things that I hold very true to myself, like spiritually, with something so mainstream as Dark Side of the Moon, that I'm sure people who don't even believe the same things that I do can equally identify with. I just think that's so cool.
This is why, dude, I'm telling you, you have to listen to that freaking 21 Pilots record I sent you
Mhm.
because, like, I don't know, I feel like they're judged so much, but that first record, which is like coming from such a state of vulnerability before like they were famous or anything, talking about Christianity in such like a outright way, like to where he doesn't have to hide it from like the media or whatever, because like mainstream artists like are scared to talk about it, but
Mhm.
like when it's such a vulnerable state, and he talks about his faith journey and all this, like in a metaphorical way. I feel like that's my second favorite album of all time, to Dark Side, just because like I don't it does sort of tackle the same things, and I can't wait to talk about that one because I have so much to say about that album. Like it's
And
insane.
also, it's interesting that you bring up Faith, because one of the albums that I want to listen to next is All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, who
Hmm.
previously was a member of the Beatles, but after the Beatles broke up, George went under like this like crazy, like miraculous spiritual awakening,
Yeah.
and he found God and found Christianity and really identified with that, and not only Christianity, but he borrowed lots of ideas from Hinduism and lots
Hmm.
of other things really cool. But he found God in that time after the Beatles broke up, and wrote this awesome album that I just love, All Things Must Pass. And in that has so many songs that are just outright Christian songs
Yeah.
that could be worship songs.
Is that the album with the song "My Sweet Lord" on it?
Yes, that album has
See,
My Sweet Lord.
I've never listened to the rest of that album, but I've recognized that I like that album. I like that song a lot because I didn't know
Yeah.
if because I knew he was part of the Beatles, but I didn't know if he was Christian or not.
I thought he went like completely Hindu. I didn't know he was Christian.
No, he okay. So I think so in the middle of the Beatles' career, they took this big trip to India to kind of like find themselves spiritually, I think. And George was one of them who like really dug into that and really wanted to tap into his spiritual side. I think a lot of times people call George the mystical or spiritual Beatle because he was just so into that and was really a deep thinker. But it was after it was after the Beatles broke up that I feel like he could really break out of that and kind of like focus more on his more like God and Christ centric beliefs that he had. Um, and he wasn't he was kind of non-denominational. He believed in some kind of sect of Christianity that it's a little weird. Like it's like a blend of Hinduism and Christianity, and it believes some weird things. Like they think that like Jesus went on mission trips to India and stuff, which like it isn't like canonical to the Bible or anything, but like it has some extra things that talk about that, which that's not neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, it's really interesting his faith journey and how he was able to be so open with it on that album. I think My Sweet Lord as a song is a good it's a good one to point out because that song clearly has a lot of like a lot of obvious imagery towards a Christian God, or at least a God who exists on his own. But then it also starts to say, some lyrics from Hindu scripture, and kind of combines the two and like sums up how like what George was dealing with spiritually, which I think is really cool. Whether you like believe in that or not. Anyway, I think just the point here is that like it's just so cool when artists or bands can like find a way to like interject their own spiritual beliefs, and yet like that might be true to them, like people listening to that can identify with it equally no matter what they believe. And I think that that's
Hmm.
true in our case as Christians. It might not be made for that purpose, but we can listen to something like
Interpret
Dark
it how
Side of
you
the
want.
Moon.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
something is good when you can like it's accessible for everyone. It's not like
That's
targeted
what
at one
like
person.
and I feel like that's the direction that a lot of artists try to go in, at least Christian artists, where they don't want to alienate their audience that they already built, but they also don't want to just make they don't want to make like worldly music, right? But they want to make something like that anybody can relate to so that they can
Right.
bring in Christian people subtly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
And
I don't know, there's downsides and like good sides of that, but like I don't know. I like that people still do that. Like I think it's very I don't know,
mhm.
hopeful.
Yeah. I
So,
think I think. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
no, you can go.
Oh, I was just gonna add on to that. I always like, it doesn't matter who it's coming from, but that idea of, I think it can come from both ways. Whether you're a Christian artist or an artist who has a certain religious belief and kind of makes music about that, and whether you like stray away from that and try to bring in more people like that, or say you're a secular artist who like taps into that side and tries to like spread the word to people who might not hear it any other way, like no matter who it is, no matter what they're preaching, or no matter what they believe, I already find a respect for that. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people criticize Kanye for this. I know Christians and non-believers who criticize him for this.
Yeah.
And to me, I can kind of separate what I believe and what I hold true to myself, kind of separate that and just look at it from like he's doing something that he's passionate about. Like Kanye's obviously passionate about God and about Christianity, and he wants to spread the word. And
Mhm.
people, Christians and non-believers, criticize him for the way he's doing that. But I think like I can at least respect it
Yeah.
because I know he's
And
passionate
you
about
can
it and what he
tell
wants to do with it.
yeah, and obviously he wouldn't just like people say he did it for fame. Well, I don't get why he would make a Christian album for fame because that was one of his like
Least well
least
received.
popular. Yeah, and it's like I don't know. I think it was a very bold thing for him to do, and I love that he did that because it's really powerful to me to like listen to his earlier stuff and then listen to how he changed so much in Jesus is King and even Donda. Like it's incredible to me,
I feel like
and
Mhm.
I
I
don't know.
feel
I
like
still
he.
respect. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, like, I still respect the artists that do it subtly. Like, I hate to bring this up again. I know you guys don't like to hear about it, but like the 21 Pilots album Trench is like a complete metaphorical. It's like about a complete metaphorical land called like Dima or whatever, and there's like a whole plot to it with lore and everything. But all of it can be. I mean, you can think of it as like whatever you want, and I think in reality, it's supposed to be a metaphor for Christianity, but you can interpret it any way you want. It's not a Christian album, which I think is really cool, but I don't know. Sometimes I do like when artists like Kanye are just bold and just make it. They just make
Mhm.
Jesus is King. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like Kanye, he has always like kind of been like Christian, or like he's at least believed in God. But I feel like in
Yeah.
his later years he kind of strayed away
When
from
his
it.
mom died,
He
yeah, it
kind of
was like
strayed
his
away
life
from
fell
it,
apart.
and
Yeah.
because obviously his first two albums have some gospel influences to them,
Yeah. Jesus walks.
and but then as like it kind of like shows his like journey as a Christian, kind of his discography,
Yeah.
as like he in the beginning he like believed in him, or like his music wasn't based solely around God, but he had some influences in. Then as
Hmm.
you like keep going into it, and then it becomes like kind of more secular. I think that's kind of like
But then you hit. it's like when you hit yay and could see ghosts,
Yeah, and then because
that's when he has, like, his breakdowns and everything, and he just, like, completely changes. It's like I know it's not intentional that he did his discography like this, but listening to it,
it
like,
just reflects his
front to
life.
back,
Like
it's
his
incredible to
music
see, and
reflects his
it's
life.
if you watch the documentary, it's like like, the fact that something like that can document such a like, I don't know, it's just incredible to me. I don't
And kind of understands why like he's with like this way with Kim. Like that's why he wants to like see his kids and whatnot because like
Yeah,
his mother to him was like, because wait, did Kanye's dad wasn't really in his life, right?
not really, you know.
So like he kind of feels like he needs to be in his kid's life because he never had it as he never had someone in his like another like a male influence in his life as a kid. So
Mhm.
he probably thinks it's like beneficial for like him to interject himself into it and like like Hollywood like Pete Davidson is like kind of antagonizing him and like being quite frankly rude to him that he just wants to see his kid. Like it's true. Like
Yeah.
people
No, I
like
get no, the
I
whole
used to have like respect for Pete Davidson because he was funny, but then I like he showed his like true character. Like
no,
if I
no,
was
I get
dating
that,
someone's
yeah.
wife, I wouldn't like text pictures of myself in bed with her. Like that just
No.
that crosses a line, and I would be mad too. And people are saying that Kanye's crazy and stuff like that, but I probably would react similar too if like um my divorced wife was like putting my kids on TikTok, which
Mhm.
already I feel like kids shouldn't be on TikTok because it ruins your brain, and I feel like him acting out in this way is kind of like he has like no other way to do it, because that's just how he is. He's always been like that. He's like always
Yeah.
like been uh like crazy or like not crazy, but like he's always been that's how he expresses himself,
Yeah.
and that's why people don't like him and think he's like insane because it's always like
Yeah.
the woman like in divorce like most times the kids always go with the mom, which he probably feels like he needs to act more so to like have more influence in his kid's life.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I think he's just like he's always been a bold person,
He's
but
been
I
bold.
think his step toward just making pretty much solely Christian music is such an inspirational thing. And just back to like the thing about like Christian music in general, like I don't know, just back to Pink Floyd, I guess. Just like I don't know, the fact that you can just pick up on those influences and
Mhm.
like even in a completely secular album, it's
Yeah.
crazy that you can see that. And I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yeah.
So what would you
And I
rate?
think
What?
Nothing.
huh?
Nothing.
Wait, I just want to say one thing to kind of sum it up. I think like I think we've talked about a lot of stuff. I think clearly it's awesome to analyze an album like this. I'm glad this is the first album that we're doing on an album review because it's been so much fun to listen to it thoroughly and not only pick up you know the influences that that subsequent people in music would take from this album, but to hear the influences from other sources that came before, like all that has been so good, and not only like the subject matter, but like also like the actual music itself. Like we've talked about, there's just so much inspiration going both ways throughout this. I think it's just so good. I also love how just in general how like diverse this album is, how you can have like all these songs that you can sit back and kind of like get in the zone and get kind of emotional about because you it resonates with you, but then like you have something like Money, which is like is pretty, it's pretty rocky. It like Money itself feels a little grungy like already, like kind of getting into that kind of sound. And then like you've got you've got more of that spiritual stuff in the middle, and then like towards the end before you get into Brain Damage and Eclipse, you've got a song like Any Color You Like, which at first, like literally the first two times I listened to this album, I don't know if it's because I wasn't paying attention to like the track list or anything, but I didn't realize that like that the song Any Color You Like had no words, because it just felt like a well-deserved break from all the heavy stuff that
Yeah.
we've been getting into before we get into like the really heavy stuff at the very end of Brain Damage and Eclipse, but like tonally, I think like Any Color You Like is so good. Like it's just such a good jam. Like as a song itself, as a song totally by itself, it's so good. Like, and to speak more on like how they were influenced by so many genres, so many styles of music, like psychedelia, rock, like a little bit of jazz elements. Like I even like heard some like funk elements in this song, which is awesome to hear. Like a song in the early '70s from what most people would consider a progressive rock band. Hearing something like funk elements kind of sprinkled into something like Any Color You Like, which is just an awesome little jam. Um, and yeah.
So,
Anyway, I
All right,
think
what would you
so
guys
I
rate
think
your
we
top
should
five? Top 5
top
songs.
five.
top
Oh,
five
okay,
songs.
yeah,
Top five
that's
songs
how.
on this
Yeah,
list. Top 5.
that'll be a good way
That's
to wrap
really
it up.
Let's do top 4 because I feel like
There's only real. Yeah, there's only like 5 songs, like in
yeah.
total.
there's only
Yeah.
this many songs.
Let's do
That's
let's do
funny.
top three. Top three. Top three.
That's
Okay.
good.
I feel like
It's still really hard though.
all of us are gonna. I feel like all of us are gonna have one in common. That's what I feel like. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's go. You first, Luke.
Okay, so obviously, I don't know. I feel like Time should be my number one, but I'm gonna go Brain Damage just because when I first listened to the album, that was my favorite, and I just kept listening to that one over and over again. But right now, Time is my favorite. But I'll go Brain Damage, Time, and then shoot. I don't know, bro. That's hard. I can't do Eclipse because that's like, ah, that's pretty
Okay,
much.
I've got yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna say like if we want to include Brain Damage or Eclipse in our top, I feel like we should count that as one song
Yeah,
because like I wouldn't want to have one without the other. You know.
yeah. So yeah, I'll do I guess both of those, and then Us and Them. Obviously, I mean, can't not have that
I
one.
think mine would be number one would be Us and Them, Brain Damage, and Breathe in the Air.
Um.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think Breathe in the Air is definitely in my list. I feel like it's so hard to rank these, but hell, I'm just gonna like list them out and then I'll try to put them in order. But I think Breathe in the Air is one of the standout tracks for me. I think that Great Gig in the Sky and Brain Damage / Eclipse are probably my top three. I don't know what order I'd put that in, but it's hard to do that and not include Us and Them because I love Us and Them as well. Um, I don't know, man. This is
You
I think
can't rank them. It's like
yeah,
one big song.
you can't this whole album, I think I don't know if I clarified this earlier, but the reason that it feels so short and that I wish it was longer is that really this album is like one big long song, which is why to me it has so much replayability. That's why I was able to listen to this thing 3 or 4 times and not get tired of it because it's like one big song, you know. It's like I feel like I listened to this all the way through you know, like I think each time I did, I probably did it in a day because it just felt like listening to, a new song that I've grown to love once a day, really. But I don't know. Yeah, I'll say Brain Damage / Eclipse is in there and Breathe in the Air is in there and what was the other one I said?
Great Gig in the Sky.
Greg in the Sky. I gotta say, Great Gig in the Sky, just because of how emotional it made me. That's the song that I connected with most, and that it it made me feel more than any other song. Because I literally was on the verge of breaking down when I was listening to it, maybe my second time all the way through. So I definitely got to put Great Gig in the Sky as my number one, just of how it made me feel.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay,
But
now
once again, it's impossible to rank these. So just
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not.
yeah.
But anyway, so we all give it a 10 because I feel like we should end with our like just
I feel like we
overall
should give our like ratings, even though like ratings are kind of arbitrary. We should just at least give what
for
we
the end.
think.
Yeah, so yeah, but I'll give it a 10.
Yeah, I think to me, since to me this is more than an album, which to me makes me feel weird comparing like having to compare this album to any other album that I love. It feels weird because this is such a different experience than any of
Mhm.
that, and I think it doesn't. To me, it doesn't necessarily make it better or worse. It just makes it so different and so powerful because it's different. But
Yeah.
for me, I think as an experience, I give this a 10 out of 10, definitely,
Yes,
without
experience. That's
question.
yeah, yeah.
I would probably give this.
He's gonna be different. Watch. He has to be different.
No, I'm saying I thought it was. I think it was a good album. I loved it. I trusted you, Luke, and I trusted you because
I'm glad. Oh, dude, I told you guys it was gonna be an experience.
Because I trusted you. But there's like we all of us value different things in music.
Oh no, yeah, of
And
course.
so I value like I don't know how to say it's like in a without sounding weird, but I value like kind of like sonic stuff like music rather than lyrics. I feel like this
Sure.
album has both of that, but there's other albums that I can just like put on and I can just like keep on listening and stuff like that. But even so, this album is still a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. I know Chris was probably just trying to be different, but I
I'm
can see
saying
that.
it's one of my favorite albums, but it's not like my favorite album.
Right.
No,
No,
I got
I
you.
get it.
Yeah.
See, like
No.
I think because I'm kind of like judging this from a totally different. I'm like separating this from all of the albums. I feel like I couldn't put this in a ranking of my favorite
No.
albums just because it's so different. Like to me, and I know that this feels like I feel like such a normie when I say this because this is like every like dad classic rock guys like, oh, Abbey Road is the best album ever. Like I I don't like to judge albums like objectively. Like I won't say one album is the best album ever, but like to me, Abbey Road, just of like my emotional connection to it and how much the Beatles inspire me as a band, is my favorite album. But like this, like Dark Side of the Moon, is so profound. Like it, like you introduced this album to me like last week, and yet I feel like it has a special place in my heart now because of like how I identified with it and
Dude,
everything. I feel like
that's what I was like trying to say. I was like, if we're doing album reviews, you guys have to listen to this because it's gonna like change your life. Like it's just
yeah.
so different, and it's almost like it's like you're watching a movie almost, but
I know
like in your brain.
it's so vivid. That's something that I haven't mentioned so far. It's so vivid. I can it's like a bunch of abstract concepts. I can't picture images in my mind really of things going on. Like I feel like this is the difference here. So I'm not familiar with Pink Floyd as a band, which I'm glad that I listened to this because I'm hoping this will be my gateway into getting more into Pink Floyd. But I'm not familiar with the members or the relationships between them. Part of why the Beatles is my favorite band isn't isn't all because of their music, but because each member has their own personality and it comes out in their music. And they had such a great relationship with each other. That's why I love the Beatles so much. And so when I'm listening
Yeah.
to a Beatles song, I can perfectly picture each member singing their part and interacting with one another. And that's the images that I get in my brain when I listen to a Beatles song. But with this, I get images of like my own life and I get like abstract pictures in my head when I listen to this because it's so thought provoking and like the sonic quality and the subject matter and the lyrics and everything paint a picture for you. And it kind of is just like default in my brain. I don't have to think about it too hard, which I just love
Yeah.
about it.
Chris,
So
did you have any final words?
I just felt like this was like a good recommendation by you, Luke, because it's kind of like the blueprint. It's like a blueprint type
Yeah.
of album.
Yeah.
So to appreciate other albums, you have to listen to this album.
So
Mhm.
what I'm wondering what we would give a 10, Chris.
An album.
Well, we can get into this another day if you want, but
All right. I don't know how to. I have to formulate what I want to say about it.
yeah.
Because what I value more than other things. But thank you guys. This has been awesome.
Oh wait,
Discussion.
I want to make one more comment because I can't believe I haven't said so these notes, I have so many notes. Like I didn't mention 99% of this stuff, but like a thing that kept popping up in my notes, and I can't believe I didn't mention it during the actual thing. But Radiohead, like I heard so much stuff that Radiohead obviously got influence of, especially
Yes.
OK Computer, like all this like existential nihilism and all that. All those ideas, I was like, holy crap! Like this is Radiohead. Even like the sound, like the synths and some of the really weird and wacky guitar effects. I noticed on on what's it called on Any Color You Like, there's this weird guitar effect and I'm like, holy crap, like that's OK Computer, Radiohead. And I like this is a really kind of niche reference, but me and my brother described that guitar effect as the Splatoon effect because there's this if you played Splatoon on the Wii U, there's this weird
Yeah.
sound that like plays in some of the songs and
Yeah.
like this weird effect, but like it sounds just like that guitar effect, and so we call it that anyway. Radiohead. I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to give him a shout out. So
That's gonna be
Yeah.
shout out Radiohead.
another
Yeah.
album we review by them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so thank
It
you
might be the
guys.
next one.
This is a really thoughtful discussion about this album, and I really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey, see you guys. Hope to see you again.
Bye bye. Okay.